how have you professionally over the years and personally come to think about the role of hope and how to talk to families about hope and children about hope, and even how to think about hope for yourself? It's a big question.
I think a wonderful adolescent who had, through no fault of his own, basically had just received a death sentence. And what he said to me was, I guess I must hope for one thing and prepare for another. And in a way, I think that hope is often what comforts people in a very difficult situation. It also, I think what I talked a lot to parents about was that sometimes hope changes, and that what you hope for may change as a child's illness progresses. And that to begin with, you're hoping for cure. Perhaps you will begin to hope for other things, whether it be that your child be at home, whether it be that your child does attend their graduation, go to a relative's wedding, whatever the hope may be. That I suppose I'm slightly in favour of realistic hopes, because then you are less likely to be deeply disappointed when they don't occur. But it certainly worries me, because hope may help somebody keep going, but it may not be achievable, which is, I think, what you're saying, and worrying about, and whether it will become such a strong belief. And I suppose it depends how much the hope is actually a belief, depending on whether it has what kind of effect it has on a parent. And I think that what you sound as if you might be worrying about is that when they have a scientist talking about rational hope for a cure for a very so far incurable disease, obviously every parent whose child has that disease is going to start hoping that their child is going to be the number one survivor of this particular condition. And I suppose it depends how strongly that turns into a belief rather than a hope.
Oh, I love that, the distinction between hope and belief. I have not heard that before, but there's a big difference. Wow, so if you believe your child is going to qualify for the trial and be treated, and then doesn't, how devastating that is, as opposed to when it's just a hope, but when it's a hope, it leaves the possibility that it won't happen. Oh, I love that. It's a very subtle but critical distinction. I do a lot of our families, Courageous Parents Network families, and certainly my own family have a relationship with rare diseases for which there historically haven't been treatments, and now with the advances in science, my goodness, thank goodness, and gene therapy and all these other things, the opportunities for experimental trials and therapies are increasing. But with that comes all the complexity of hope, expectation, in some instances belief. And I do worry a lot about that there's going to be this new field of support that families are going to need, that in the past it was all about it was only palliative medicine because there was no treatment or therapy, such as in our case. And now suddenly it's going to be about balancing hope versus...
Now uncertainty is reaching into which, if you think about it, cancer, leukemia used to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And it was a death sentence.
Yeah.
Even for a child. And gradually it wasn't.
Yeah.
But then the uncertainty appears, and you don't quite know. So you're handling uncertainty as opposed to a more certain, if tremendously sad, reality. I suppose acknowledging it and acknowledging how difficult it is being in an uncertain place. That, and particularly there are some people who have particularly difficult times living with uncertainty, who are used to maybe in their lives being able to make decisions, have things happen, as opposed to the ones who maybe a little bit more fatalistic and say we will try, we will hope, but we obviously don't know. So I think acknowledging that it's difficult, acknowledging we wish we could know but we can't,